like a G is supposed to. I'm from the old school, no one comes close to. Post it up and I do what I want to. Post it up and I do what I want to. I keep it G like a G is supposed to. I'm from the old school, no one comes close to. Post it up and I do what I want to. Post it up and I do what I want to. I keep it true and I mean every last word. I was fooled by the truth, real gangsters. White tee creased up with a strap too. I'm from the bottom where we earn all our tattoos. Boy, it's taboo when you living just like I do. Air is up and you know we keep it all blue. I keep it loony and I don't mean like cartoons. They talk brave till they hear that click, clap, boom. It is what it is, we do what the G's do. Celebrate so we hot box the whole room.
You are now watching M.O.D. Entertainment.
Now, as we continue the part two of North Hollywood, the city in which I come from, the city I grew up in, we will be starting off with my neighborhood. In order to find my neighborhood in the city in which I come from, the city of No Hope, we have to travel down to when you exit the 170 on Sherman Way, all the way till you hit Lauren Canyon to Hart is where you're able to find my neighborhood, right? Everything that's considered the Hart Street block. Everything that's from Vos to Vinoan and from Lancashire to the Valley Plaza Park is what's considered our territory. Now, my neighborhood is one of North Hollywood's newest barrios, so we're not as old school as, let's say, the Clanton 18, Hollywood Boys, Locos, and all of that. We were roughly one of the more smaller, newer barrios, right? My barrio started in 1986. And, we grew in numbers awfully fast because my neighborhood was the combination of two different, sub-gang crews that, clicked up, which was the Nike Boys and the Simpson Boys that created my neighborhood, right? And then other crews, came along and became a part of that, DNC, PBF, some of the members of CMK, TSS, and, and certain other crews, right, that, created the nucleus of my neighborhood, right? And what, split the crews up into cliques from the barrio, you know what I mean? From the Winos, Locos, Youngsters, Avenues, Pequeños, Tiny Maniacs, Chico Locos, is what makes, the nucleus of the neighborhood, right? Now, like I have said, as 100% that I know that we're more than 200 members. I know that for a fact. So individuals can say what they want and throw a hissy fit and stuff like that, bro. I don't come and throw tapatio on my neighborhood. It is what it is. I only come and spit the facts. I'm not here to make it seem more than what it is, and you know what I mean. I only come and spit the facts, bro. You may not like the facts, but the facts are the facts, And my neighborhood, has been right here. We're out of NH, originated. No one ever started my neighborhood. We have held our own and continue to hold our own, right here in the city of NH and for our neighborhood, you know what I mean? For that Rafford Street gang, Now, another barrio within the same area right here. Like I said, you just have so many different barrios crammed up into one location. It creates a lot of problems. Another barrio is the barrio ALS. ALS translating to barrio Alley Locos. Alley Locos is already a neighborhood that was established right here since the 80s that it was established. And their territory essentially was everything that was from Sherman Way all the way to Coldwater. Their turf still extended all the way to Victory, and from Victory all the way to Whitsett and back around. Everything in the middle is considered their barrio. You know what I mean? Now, this was one of North Hollywood's most, a little bit more of their smaller gang, you know what I mean? It wasn't as large as, let's say, some of these other barrios around, but nonetheless, they were there doing their thing, really handling business, you know what I mean? And I should know because this is another neighborhood in which we go at it with. So, they were really doing their thing right there on what's the heart of their hood, the belly of the beast, the mouth of the lion is on Bel Air and Barbara Anna Street. Barbara Anna Street and Bel Air, right there was considered, that backaway alley of those apartments is what's considered the Alley Locos neighborhood, where they get their name from and everything like that. I am aware that there is also a branch in Los Angeles. This is their birthplace right here. They were saying that because you have an Alley Locos in Los Angeles that's the Junior Mafia. It's a clique of theirs, but they're two different gangs. Then you had another one that ended up coming a little bit more later, but they originated out of here. Out of this area, right? And like I said, they're up to a few hundred or 80 to 100 members to them. Like I said, a little bit more of the smaller gang, but nonetheless, they're right there doing their thing and representing for the ALS. This is also the neighborhood in which the rapper, Mr. D, the youngster, this is the barrio in which he comes from. The ALS, the Ali Locos. So out of right here, the city of North Hollywood as well. Right here they do their turf. Ends up overlapping also with the Whitsett Avenue Cribs. So like I said, it does get chaotic right here because you have all these barrios so close together. You know, I mean, all of these barrios are literally like 10 minutes on a bike, 5 minutes on a car away from each other. So we're talking about a lot of chaos, within this area. Now, another barrio that you have right here within the area of North Hollywood that is actually rooted back to LA is the MS neighborhood. Obviously, people are aware that MS is a neighborhood that just is one of the, when it comes to, Latino neighbor, one of the biggest Latino gangs, known and recognized, throughout the states. They have members all over the place. The San Fernando Valley be no different. They landed here since the 80s. Not as old as like 18 or Platon, whatever. They came a little bit more after, obviously, because it's not as old as those gangs. But they landed right here in the San Fernando Valley, and no different. They ended up spreading out into different locations of the San Fernando Valley, but NH is their birthplace right here, the north side MS. You know what I mean? And their territory, like I said, they had to share it right there with the North Hollywood locals right there on Minoan and Victory. But the heart of their neighborhood or their domain is everything that's from Sherman Way all the way to the Wash all the way to Coldwater, and Coldwater, to Vinoan and back around. Everything in the middle is considered their barrio, but the heart of their hood, their main domain, their dojo, and the clica in which they're most recognized for is the Fulton Locals, right there on Fulton Avenue, is where you're able to find the MSers. You know what I mean? And I don't even have to say that obviously they're one of the most largest gangs, because even though here in the San Fernando Valley they do have a pretty decent amount of presence, they do have their LA counterparts that come and back them up and stuff like that, right? So they're a lot more larger in a whole like that, when you see it from that, because like I said, the drive is not even that far of a drive. So, in perspective, they're a lot more larger, you know what I mean? For that reason. But like I said, they do handle their thing because it's another neighborhood that we go at it with. And I have had my share of conflicts with these individuals. So I know that they really there and doing their thing. You know what I mean? I ain't going to take nothing away from them. But yeah, the MS is another neighborhood right here in North Hollywood that landed and was doing their thing. Now, to find the next neighborhood on the list, we actually have to head down towards the area of Lancashire, towards the Lancashire Swami. And the Lancashire Swami, around the areas where you're able to find the next barrio on the list. Everything that's around the Jimmy's, if people are familiar with North Hollywood, they know where the Jimmy's is at. Bomb place, serve chingon food and everything like that. On Renamede is where you were able to find the barrio BFTH. Barrio BFTH standing for Boys from the Hood. Not to be confused with the Boys from the Hood from Orange County, two separate ones. These ones are straight out of the Valle. And they've been right here in North Hollywood for quite some time, you know what I mean? Roughly around the early 80s when this neighborhood was established. Now, it was never a large neighborhood, but they had their numbers, at least a few hundred members to them, you know what I mean? Real individuals, Now, their territory was everything down Renamede, down Hines, was their dojo, the belly of the beast, lion's den, that's why they have the Hines Streets, the Malos from their neighborhood, Hines Street locals, when you see it up, in their graffiti. But the Boys from the Hood is a real barrio that's been right here in North Hollywood already, right here by the Lancashire Swami. Now, although the 18th Street neighborhood is right there as well, it's been conflicts and issues between the neighborhoods, heavy animosity and war, it's like I said, it really be going down right there in NH. But like I said, even though this barrio was never a large neighborhood, it still had its members that held it down and continue to hold it down for theirs. You know what I mean? These guys ain't no suckers, so don't get it twisted. They be right there representing for that Boys from the Hood, and continue to put theirs on the map. Now, to find the next barrio on the list, we actually have to be heading now a little bit more down North Hollywood towards the Kittredge area. And here in this area is where we were able to find the barrio ERLS or ELS, which stood for Elmer Locos. Elmer Locos, obviously being named after Elmer Avenue. And this barrio was located on Elmer and Kittredge in those apartments. This barrio started in 1988. Roughly, it was always a small neighborhood. It never grew, large in numbers. It was roughly only like about 25 to 30 members to them, but real individuals that held it down. Now, I haven't seen these guys up in a while, but they were a real barrio that was really established right there on Elmer and Kittredge. But like I said, with other gangs sprouting around the area being a lot more larger and bigger, makes recruitment a lot more difficult. This barrio, had a, hard time, pretty much recruiting or expanding, so it just always stayed a small neighborhood, but still have real individuals that hold it down for the Elmer locals right there. Another small barrio that was roughly around right here in the North Hollywood area. Now, this one, you were able to find them right there on Strathern and Whitsett on the dead end. Also by Armenta, you were able to find the barrio MTC. MTC used to be a tagging crew, tag bangers, that became a neighborhood, right? It stood for Mexicans Taking Control, More Than Crazy, and all of that, right? It was, tag bangers that worked their way up, roughly a tagging banging crew that was around the early 90s, and they were about, 30 to 45 members to them. They did, expand a little bit more larger than that, but, have always continued being a small neighborhood, and, roughly because it's not as old school and it used to be a crew that, you don't hear about them as much. But yes, they were a real neighborhood right there, and that held it down right there in the dead end. And you still see their graffitis up and stuff like that, so they still are relevant in the city of North Hollywood, and still hold the presence right there for the MTC. Now, another neighborhood that you have that came from Los Angeles that, landed right here in the city of North Hollywood is the PN Gang. PN Gang standing for Pico Nuevo. It's a gang that's located in the southeast in the city of Pico Rivera. Now, they did set up a shop right here in North Hollywood, roughly around the Jack in the Box, right there on Kittredge. Is where you're able to find their neighborhood. Roughly, it's not a large, territory because it's not a large gang in themselves. Roughly, only about 10 to 12 members to them. Like I said, and they only been right here in the city of NH since 2014, roughly around that time frame. So they don't have a long time, and since they're like, yeah, it just makes recruitment a lot more difficult, because people having, pride in being valleros and stuff like that. But don't get it twisted; they still have a presence right there in the city of NH. Now, another barrio to come from a different area and land right here in the city of NH, but this time coming from a different location, meaning the area of San Diego. You have the barrio Logan Heights. Logan Heights do have a branch right here in the San Fernando Valley. Now, although the barrio now is located more on the Van Nuys side of, the valley, they originated out of here. The city of No Hope, the city of NH, is where the Logan Heights gang first landed and established themselves when they were valleros right here. Since the 80s, that they already been right here. Obviously, Logan Heights being a large, old school barrio in its home grounds of, San Diego, they had, members that had moved down over here and, established themselves over here in NH. Now, when they landed here in the Valle, they landed right there on Kittredge and Booner Avenue, is where their barrio was located at, close to where the Target's at right there in North Hollywood, on Kittredge. And that's where they were at, and doing their thing, for a long, long time, Since then, you're now able to find them more in the Van Nuys side of things, but this is their original birthplace when they landed here. And like I said, they grew into a few hundred members right here in the city of North Hollywood. So Logan Heights does have a presence right here and continue to still represent for theirs and their barrio. Now, another barrio that claims right here the city of North Hollywood, you have the CMK. CMK was a tag banging crew that became a neighborhood. I'm not too sure if they became a neighborhood, but that's what they write and that's what they put, right? Now, CMK was a crew that started right there in North Hollywood, who was started roughly around the early 90s when this tag banging crew was up, Some of their members ended up becoming, homies from my neighborhood. They ended up getting into my neighborhood. Some decided to, still, do their own thing and keep their crew up. There was no tensions before, but I guess as they recruited maybe some youngsters, they just, I guess, the youngsters weren't aware and just, started the whole, graffiti, crossing out and stuff like that. Now, I'm not sure where they're located in North Hollywood. I think they just kind of like they roam around, like how tag banging crews do. And I'm not here to hate on them. Like I said, I'm only here to call it how it is. I think they just they drift around. So where they where they're at is where they represent. Because I was also told they're in Silmar, and certain locations. So I think it's just like how tagging crews do. They just but they are established. They are around. So that's what they are. The same case. Another neighborhood that is from LA that landed here in the city of North Hollywood that established is the barrio Lenox. Lenox is already an old school barrio out of Los Angeles. People are aware of Lenox. They did set up shop right here in North Hollywood and, establish their Northside Lenox clique of theirs. Now, their territory is everything that's from Vinoan to Woodman, Woodman to Kittredge, and from Kittredge, their turf extends all the way to Fulton, back around. Everything in the middle is considered their barrio. You know what I mean? And they already, like I said, right there throughout Ventura Canyon Avenue. Their neighborhood has already been established here for quite some time, since the mid to later 90s, and have, grown to more, at least from what I was told, more than 35 members to them, and continue to still you hold the presence. You still see the graffiti, you still see their activity, you still see them up. And like I said, I have homies out of this neighborhood. I know several individuals, so I know that they waited, I know that they're there, and I know they handle business. So there's another neighborhood that landed here and established right here in the area of North Hollywood. Another neighborhood that you have in the city of NH that people often forget about is the barrio Orca Locos. Now, although Orcas is located a little bit more when you're heading already out of North Hollywood and into some valley, but that area is still considered North Hollywood. Now Orcas originated out of the Silmar / Pacoima area. That's where their neighborhood, came from, right? Out of Orcas Avenue, right? It's named after a street, right? I don't know the history and how they landed here in North Hollywood, but I know that they landed here and they've been here, and that's where they established, and that's where people recognize them from. You know what I mean? Now, the Orcas territory is everything that's from Lancashire all the way to Strathern all the way to Tahunga, and from Tahunga, their territory heading back to Satakoy, back around. Everything in the middle is considered their barrio. Everything that's throughout Beck, obviously in Stag, Armenta, all of that is what's considered their barrio, throughout Thrust and all of that, It's what's, the OLS neighborhood. And this neighborhood is already an old barrio. This barrio goes back already to like the 50s, homie. So this is an old school barrio. But in itself, the barrio was never a large neighborhood. They are a few hundred members to them. But they never grew to like other barrios around them to that size. But don't get it twisted. Real individuals that handle business right there in the city of NH for the OLS. Another neighborhood that you have out of the city of North Hollywood is the barrio NFL. NFL was another tag banging crew that was around already for a while, since the early 90s that it was established. It stood for no fucking limit. Everyone, knew these, guys, they were handling business. They were tag bangers, but, nonetheless, they were doing their thing, right? And they grew in large, they grew in numbers awfully, fast, because like I said, these individuals, were well known, and No Fucking Limit, NFL. They were tag bangers that did their thing. Roughly, their territory was around the Grant High School. The back streets of that is where you were able to find them, right? And with times going by and everything like that, in the early 2000s, when they established themselves as a neighborhood, right? Standing for now NFLS, just adding the S part to their neighborhood, now translating to neighborhood felons. That's what their neighborhood now stands for, right? Neighborhood felons. NFLS, but it's the same one as the NFL and stuff like that, like I said. Now, they're not a large neighborhood because they haven't been around as long as some of these other neighborhoods, and they're not as old school, you get what I mean? But nonetheless, that's where they originated, out of the city of North Hollywood. Since then, their homies have spread out to different cities, and etc., stuff like that, right? You're able to find them in different parts. But yeah, these were real individuals that continue to hold it down for theirs in the NFLS right there. Another barrio that you have right here in the city of North Hollywood, and one of the few black gangs that really established themselves, because in North Hollywood you did have other black neighborhoods that tried to establish right there. You had the Bounty Hunters, you had the Fruit Towns, you had the Nutty Blocks. You had a lot of different LA gangs that tried to establish right here. that were African American, but really couldn't establish, right? They tried, but they just really couldn't, set up shop. But one neighborhood that is originally from this area that did establish, that held it down, that have represented out of this area for a long time, is the Whitsett Avenue Gangster Cribs. Whitsett Avenue Gangster Crips, a real Crip set right here in the city of NH. I should know, their neighborhood is right. We're neighbors. There's been tensions and feuds and animosity. And I can't have said that they actually were there doing their thing. And, they were doing their thing, homie. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna take nothing away from them, They also had a rapper from this neighborhood, Big Payback. You can check out his music. He passed away. And he was a real one, even though we had our issues and conflicts, I can't take nothing away from him. He was down for his shit and represented, and held his own. You know what I mean? So I got nothing bad to say about the individual. You know what I mean? He actually really, stood on what he held it down for. You know what I mean? So you can't hate on somebody for that. But yes, this is one of the few black neighborhoods that really was right here and continues to be right there where the Whitsett Park's at. Everyone knows the Whitsett Park right there where they play soccer and stuff like that. That's where they held it down. I know that in the street, the street gang portion, they had tried to say that it was their turfs were the Valley Plaza Parks, but that's my neighborhood. That was actually false. They're located where the theater's at, and that miniature park, and in the Whitsett side of things. you know. And those are the facts. I'm not here to hate or deny or nothing, bro. I could only call it how it is. But that's what's up with the Winston Avenue Gangster Crips. Another barrio that you have right here in the city of North Hollywood, but isn't from the city of North Hollywood, is obviously the Sun Valley Violent Boys. Sun Valley Violent Boys obviously originate out of the city of Sun Valley. Everybody knows that. That's their breeding ground, their domain, that is their dojo. But they are also located here in North Hollywood, right? You are able to find them here in North Hollywood because in North Hollywood, you had a tag banging crew that was, working its way up to becoming a neighborhood, the Barrio 129, OTN, one dick, two balls, nine bitches, only the notorious, they had a few things that they made their neighborhood stand for, right? And, they were tag bangers that were really down for the shit, handling business. They were already around since the early 90s, later 80s, early 90s when they were established. They had numbers to them. They had their riders. They were with the business. Now, they were straight out of the city of North Hollywood. That is where they come from, right? They claimed more the city of Sun Valley because they feuded with everybody around them in the city of NA. So, obviously, they were more comfortable in the city of Sun Valley. And they had a good relationship with the guys from Violin, right? That's why people seen them more as a Sun Valley crew and everything. But in reality, they were straight out of North Hollywood. That is where they come from. Out of the Clump Street area, Clump Avenue, that is where they come from. I mean, that's actually what the 129K stood for. The K didn't stand for crew, it stood for Clump, which is the street in which they come from. You get what I'm saying? Their territory was everything that was from Vanoan to Tujunga to Victory, and from Victory to Violin and back around. And on Kittredge and Clump was their domain, their dojo, where they handle business. Like I said, they grew numbers, and they were working their way up, but decided to become a clique off of the Violent Boys gang, right? So they got into Violent and became a clique off of Violent. So therefore, then, that territory now becoming the Violent Boys territory, right? So even though there's Sun Valley Violent Boys, they do have a branch here in the city of North Hollywood. So they are located in North Hollywood, you know what I mean? So not just in Sun Valley, you're able to find the Violent Boys. That's why the Violent Boys gang is one of the San Fernando Valley's most largest, because they are in different locations, established, and, handle business, not just in Sun Valley. But yeah, that's what's up with the Violent Boys right here, representing out of the city of NH, and, their 129 clique.